Hey, and welcome to another episode of the PSXDAD sampler. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, just a heads up, I'm doing my absolute best not to have any kind of story spoilers in this. Obviously, there will be a little bit of light gameplay spoilers and some very minor discussions of locations that are early in the game, just to provide a little context for what we're looking at. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to take a look at the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, just because, like a week ago, the Spider-Man game came out, and I know everybody's talking about the Spider-Man game, but I've always been a huge fan of the Tomb Raider series. So I was actually, even though I am really excited to play Spider-Man, I was actually more excited to play this because I've also liked the reboot as well. But yeah, I'm just opening up in this room. So basically, right now we are in Mexico. We're in a tomb at towards the beginning of the game. This isn't the very beginning of the game because the very beginning of the game has a lot of story, as well as some, at least for this purpose, uninteresting kind of walking sections to kind of set up the tone of everything. But I kind of wanted to show this section, one, because it's got some gameplay in it, but two, because, I just wanted to kind of compare, and I'll probably put some footage in here of the first Tomb Raider, just how far graphically these games have come. I mean, Tomb Raider has always kind of been a series that has been kind of a big push for the graphics. But it's really quite cool to see, having played these games since the beginning, how much these games have come along. So, for the purposes of this, I have cut out all dialogue and turned off subtitles and everything, so you shouldn't have to worry about hearing the storyline. We should just be getting environmental noise in music as well. But like I said, so this is taking place right now in Mexico, and then very early on, after this section, because this section's not super long, you're going to be visiting Peru, which I believe, based off of all of the marketing to begin with, should be the major location of the game. And if you have been following along with the Tomb Raider series, I mean, these aren't the first time that these locations have been used. I'm sure, they're going to be used in kind of unique and different ways, but, for example, with Mexico, I mean, that was, as far as I know, the only other time it's been used in the series is in Tomb Raider Underground, where there's a little bit of Mayan stuff in that game. And then Peru, where we're going to be heading after this section, although not covering it in this video, is something that was the very, very beginning of Tomb Raider. That's the first 4 levels, I believe, of the first game. So it kind of starts there. Which is cool, like all the setting in here. It's very neat. Like you can see the bats up there. And I think most of this opening section right here is just, so you can kind of find some collectibles, because kind of to progress here we need to go down here into the water. And I do get the vibe that there's going to be a lot more water sections in this, which you can view as a good or a bad thing. I mean, I know water levels typically aren't super popular. I actually personally don't usually like water sections, just because I not a big fan of water in general. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get through it in this game, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and keep on swimming up towards this light. And you see, this is that right there is why I don't like water sections. I just feel like you have a lot less control underwater, and getting attacked is not something that's very appealing to me. Vibration function is going nuts here. And I really wish that I could capture this in 4K. I don't have a way to capture this in 4K because, I mean, it really does. Like, the extra detail in here is just incredible. Just kind of looking around. There's another one of those challenges. So, I mean, the gameplay-wise, this is a extremely similar playing game to the last two. So, if you like the last two, I don't see why you wouldn't like this from what I played so far. We got a little trap here. You can see the rope. Go ahead and cut that. Yep, didn't want to trip that. But having said that, if you didn't like the previous games, I don't really, so far, have seen anything that would make you like this game. So, but I'm just a fan of the Tomb Raider series in general, and I mean, even the bad games, like, I've played through, and while I'm not, so much of a, I mean, I'm a really big fan, but I'm not so much of a blind fanboy to say, okay, I don't recognize that those games can kind of suck. But I mean, I say all that in the sense of, like, I've enjoyed pretty much all the different types of Tomb Raider games that we've gotten. I really do kind of miss, to some extent, the style of the original Tomb Raiders, where it was more about exploring, puzzle solving, kind of platforming through the levels and such. There wasn't a heavy emphasis on combat in the early Tomb Raiders. There was, and I felt like, at least remembering back on them, that it was more like, like dealing with animals that were already in the tombs, as opposed to a lot of human combat. Looks like we got something blocking here. And that's kind of like my preferred type Tomb Raider, because, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't know why Lara Croft has to be some killer in order to accomplish what she's doing. I think the stuff in itself is exciting enough, and getting past the traps and things like that is more interesting. But I mean, having said that, I mean, I've enjoyed the, like, Legends Anniversary Underground style Tomb Raiders. I've enjoyed this series. So I mean, it's something that, you know, I've enjoyed all of them. I mean, I prefer the original style, but you know, I think from what I was reading on this one, that this is supposed to be a little bit more like that. That the combat isn't quite as heavy as it's been in the last few games. So hopefully that's the case. I mean, I still think that there'll probably be a decent amount of combat and such. And I mean, honestly, I felt the same way, although I guess to a little bit of a lesser extent. I kind of felt the same way a little bit with Uncharted. Like, you know, Uncharted is kind of known for its big action sequences and stuff like that, but it's like, I almost kind of like the exploring and such more, so. But at least, like, with Uncharted, it doesn't have that kind of precedent of, you know, like, you know, this is what the game kind of series started out, or whatever. Okay, so we push that down there. This is like some sort of circular wheel-looking contraption. So let's turn that. And I mean, we're playing this game right now on normal. From what I understand, you can. I mean, well, I know that you can change the puzzle and combat and exploration difficulty. From what I understand, you can make the puzzles a little bit more challenging. Okay, so it looks like shooting that. Now we can pull this thing up here. So, yeah, I mean, on hard, or I don't know if there's a very hard, you know, maybe this was more elaborate, I'm imagining. Whoops. And now we can kind of put the counterweight going there. But yeah, I don't think that this particular episode is going to be quite as long. Just because... Ooh, jeez. I guess look before you leap, right? I don't think I'm supposed to go on that one. I do think that this video will be a little bit shorter than I typically do for these, just in the sense of, you know, I just want to kind of show like some of the opening section, get a vibe for what the game kind of looks like, give a taste of the, like kind of the vibe of the game and the combat and stuff like that. But I also, like, realized, you know, this is a brand new, fresh game that's just coming out. And, like I said, people might be playing Spider-Man right now, too. So, you know, I don't want to, like, go in and spoil a whole lot of this. And, in fact, I think there's a story cutscene kind of thing coming up here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so we're back. And the cutscene's over. And now we... are in a situation, as it's probably not unfamiliar to most Tomb Raider fans, of escaping a crumbling temple. Let's get out of here. And basically at this point, like, I want to show some combat, which we're going to have an opportunity to here. And then after the combat, I think there's going to be another cutscene, but we'll end the video at the end of the combat. So this is just kind of showing us the new mechanic of moving along the vines. You can use that to kind of get in position for your stealth kills. There's also like a new camo mechanic in the game that makes it a little bit, makes the stealth elements a little bit more prominent. So you can see, like, she kind of gets muddier as she goes through that, but I mean, she can completely cover herself in mud to kind of help blend into the environment a little bit more. So let's see where this guy is. I assume he's talking to somebody. Nope. So let's go ahead and take him out. Not the brightest of enemies right there. Another way you can kind of tackle that is to kind of sneak up on the one enemy, and you should, I think, be able to get you know, this guy's stealth taken down, and then before this guy even like really gets a chance to react, you can get the other guy real quick. You see a little artifact down there. I'm not too worried about that right this second, just because, just trying to show off the beginning of the game. So you can see there's 4 guys here. You still have the I forget what they call it, essentially the detective mode. I always call these modes like kind of detective modes after Batman, but I forget what they call it in this game. Go ahead and take this guy down. Sneak around here. Take this guy. So I mean, as you can see, that was very set up for you to kind of silently take all these guys out if you are quick about it. Now this part right here is a little bit less set up for that kind of thing. Cause this guy, like, he stands here and smokes, but he never really moves. But you kind of can come over here and, you know, you're kind of even encouraged to, because there's a bunch of collectibles and such. But you can come over here and kind of take this out. I guess that guy does eventually move. Kind of lead him away with an arrow there. Take that guy out. And so this is just some more guys coming in. It's just an excuse for you to have more guys drop in here. There's not really like anything going on really in this cutscene. So now at this point, this part I was like, this really like, and this is the one thing I've noticed so far in this game is like, I feel like, so this game is done by Eidos Montreal instead of Crystal Dynamics, and the one thing I've noticed is like the AI slash kind of monster closet sections of the game are not as intelligent as they were in the last 2 games. You could see like right there, like clearly the enemies were funneling out of the quote unquote monster closet right there. And they didn't even really put up any kind of fight, because like they just kind of poured out of there, and I was able to mow them down. And this is my second time going through this section, but it was the same thing my first time going through it. Like, I was still able to do that, so it's not just like because I knew it was coming. Like, I was already kind of positioned over here, because I kind of approached it basically the same way, and I was able to just kind of mow those guys down before anything happened to me. So there was like no real threat. And like I said, I'm on normal combat difficulty, so it just kind of a little weird how easy that was, and how little of a challenge. But like I said, I think the combat is going to be less emphasized in this game. So yeah, I mean, if that is something that bothers you, I mean, that could potentially be an issue in the game. But to me, like, the combat is like very secondary to me in terms of what I want to kind of experience. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video here, because if I continue forward, it's going to be another cutscene that leads into kind of a sequence that I don't want to show, because it's, you know, kind of a set piece sequence in the game. And then there'll be a bunch of storyline and such that sets you up on your way to Peru. But with that said, if you did enjoy it, this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I do these types of short playthroughs just kind of to give you an idea, as well as full playthroughs of games. I do reviews of games from all generations, with a focus on the PlayStation 1 era, being my favorite not just PlayStation generation, but my favorite generation of games to begin with. And I also do a series on introducing games to your kids. But with that said, I will see you guys next time.